Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today, we're diving into one of the most intense and emotional storylines unfolding in General Hospital, the deepening rift between Trina Robinson and Jocelyn Jacks. With Joss spiraling out of control and Trina feeling torn between loyalty and concern, will she make the difficult choice to confide in Carly Spencer? Or will staying silent lead to devastating consequences? Let's break it all down. The weight of silence, Trina's internal battle over Jocelyn's downward spiral. Trina Robinson has always been a loyal friend, standing by Jocelyn Jacks through thick and thin. But lately, that loyalty is being put to the test in ways she never imagined. Joss isn't the same person she once knew. She's on edge, reckless, and shutting everyone out, including Trina. As much as Trina wants to respect Joss' autonomy, she can't ignore the troubling red flags that seem to be getting worse by the day. For weeks, Trina has wrestled with an impossible decision. Should she go to Carly Spencer and alert her to what's going on, knowing that Joss' fiercely protective mother will do anything to intervene? Or should she keep her mouth shut, respecting Joss' privacy but risking her best friend's safety in the process? It's a lose-lose situation. If Trina tells Carly, she could betray Joss' trust forever. But if she stays silent and Joss gets in over her head, the guilt could haunt her for the rest of her life. A friendship on the brink. Joss and Trina's emotional distance. Joss and Trina's friendship has always been rock solid. They've been each other's ride or die since their teenage years, always having each other's backs through heartbreak, family drama, and life's biggest challenges. But lately, that unbreakable bond has started to crack. Ever since Joss shot Cyrus in self-defense, something inside her shifted. Instead of opening up about her trauma, she's retreated further into herself, becoming increasingly reckless. She's shutting people out, making impulsive choices, and brushing off Trina's attempts to reach her. Trina, usually the voice of reason, is growing more frustrated and heartbroken. She doesn't recognize this version of Joss, the one who acts as if nothing phases her, who shrugs off the consequences of her actions, and who refuses to let anyone in. The more Trina tries to help, the more Joss pushes her away, leaving Trina feeling helpless. How do you save someone who doesn't want to be saved? The Carly factor, a risky move that could change everything. Trina isn't blind, she sees the storm brewing and knows that something big is coming. And that's what makes her next move even more difficult. Should she go to Carly? Carly Spencer is a force of nature. She is a mother who doesn't back down, a woman who protects her family at all costs, and a person who, if she knew what was happening, would do everything in her power to pull Jocelyn back from the edge. Trina has witnessed Carly's unwavering loyalty firsthand, and she knows that if anyone can break through to Joss, it's her. But Trina also knows the cost of that decision. If Carly gets involved, there will be no turning back. Joss, already bristling at any form of control, will not take kindly to being rescued. She might lash out, seeing Trina's intervention as a betrayal rather than an act of love. And then there's the fallout beyond just Joss. If Trina goes to Carly, other people in their circle, like Giovanni Gio Palmieri or Emma Scorpio Drake, could take issue with what they see as Trina meddling in Joss' personal choices. It's a dangerous line to walk, and the wrong step could shatter friendships beyond repair. Confiding in Curtis, an unexpected source of guidance? Before making a decision, Trina might seek advice from someone she trusts, Curtis Ashford. Curtis has been like a second father to her, offering wisdom when she needed it most. He understands the weight of carrying someone else's secrets and the difficulty of making decisions that could alter relationships forever. If Trina turns to him, he might help her see the bigger picture, reminding her that sometimes, protecting someone means doing what they won't like in the moment but need in the long run. But even with guidance, the choice is ultimately hers to make. The fallout, Joss' reaction, and the ripple effect. If Trina does tell Carly, the consequences will be immediate and intense. Carly isn't one to sit back. She will confront Jocelyn head-on, forcing her daughter to face the emotions she's trying so hard to suppress. And Joss, who is already teetering on the edge, could explode. Would she cut Trina out of her life for good? Accuse her of betrayal? Would she spiral even further? And what if Carly's involvement backfires? If Joss feels attacked rather than supported, she might dig in deeper, pushing boundaries even further. Could a well-intended intervention actually accelerate Joss' self-destruction rather than stop it? Alternatively, if Trina chooses silence, the risk is just as high. What if Joss makes a catastrophic choice? What if she finds herself in a situation she can't get out of alone? If something terrible happens, if Joss gets hurt or worse, Trina will never forgive herself for not stepping in sooner. Either way, Trina is caught in an emotional tug-of-war with no easy way out. The big question, what will Trina do? Rumors suggest that Trina's breaking point is coming soon. She can't ignore the warning signs much longer, and soon, she will have to make a choice, one that could either save Jocelyn or destroy their friendship forever. The question is, will she trust her instincts and go to Carly, knowing the fallout could be painful? Or will she keep her silence and hope that Joss finds her way back on her own? Either way, this storyline is shaping up to be one of the most gut-wrenching and emotionally complex arcs we've seen in General Hospital in a long time. And that's a wrap for today, guys. What do you think? Should Trina tell Carly, or would that be a huge mistake? Will Joss ever open up before it's too late? Next, we're diving into one of the most frustrating yet entertaining characters in General Hospital, Brad Cooper. No matter how many second chances he gets, he just can't seem to stay out of trouble. Is he his own worst enemy, or is there still hope for redemption? Let's break down his chaotic history and his latest disastrous choices. A pattern of self-destruction, Brad Cooper just can't help himself. Brad Cooper is the definition of someone who never learns from his mistakes. Time and time again, he finds himself entangled in deception, scheming, and outright disastrous decision-making. Just when it seems like he's about to turn his life around, he does something reckless that plunges him deeper into turmoil. Most recently, Brad has once again landed himself in hot water, proving that some habits are just impossible to break. Instead of staying on the straight and narrow, he's found himself entangled in blackmail, gambling, and shady deals with Port Charles's underground figures. This time, though, his actions may have finally destroyed any last chance of winning back his ex, Lucas Jones. So, where did everything go wrong for Brad this time? Brad's latest mess, from blackmail to mob dealings. After being released from Pentonville, Brad swore that he would turn over a new leaf. He managed to get his job back at General Hospital, and for a moment, it looked like things might actually be going in the right direction. Even more promising? Lucas Jones was back in town, and there were hints that maybe, just maybe, Lucas was beginning to soften toward his ex. But, of course, Brad being Brad had to mess it up. First, he blackmailed Portia Robinson after discovering that she had tampered with Heather Weber's blood test. Instead of minding his own business and steering clear of trouble, Brad saw an opportunity for leverage, a move that was bound to backfire. Then, he got involved in high-stakes gambling with Cody Bell and his mob-connected Aunt Selena Wu. It wasn't enough that he was playing with fire. He then took things even further by handing over evidence against his boss to his aunt, securing his place in yet another scandal. At this point, Lucas finding out was inevitable. And once he did, it was game over for any hope of rekindling their romance. Brad may have wanted a fresh start, but his impulse to scheme and manipulate always wins out in the end. The infamous Wiley secret, the moment that ruined Brad's life. Of course, Brad's latest disaster pales in comparison to the worst decision of his life, the infamous Wiley baby swap. Back when Brad and Lucas were still married, they adopted a baby together. But when their son tragically died shortly after birth, Brad made an unforgivable decision. He swapped the deceased infant with Michael Corinthos' son, Wiley, who had been born that same night. At the time, Nellie Benson, Wiley's birth mother and a notorious schemer in her own right, was more than happy to let Brad raise her child under false pretenses, so long as it suited her plans. 4 months, Brad lived a double life, raising Michael's son while hiding the truth from his own husband, Lucas. And when the truth finally came out, it destroyed everything. Lucas divorced Brad on the spot, unable to forgive the lies and deception. Brad was arrested and sent to Pentonville, losing not only his marriage but the entire life he had built with Lucas and their son. It was the ultimate betrayal, and even now, it's hard to imagine how Brad thought he could get away with it. A glimpse of redemption, but will Brad ever change? Despite all the chaos he's caused, Brad has had moments where he genuinely seemed to want to change. His time in prison gave him a reality check, and when he was released, he really did try to be a better man. Getting his job back at GH was a huge step in the right direction, and his reconnection with Lucas gave him a sliver of hope that maybe, just maybe, he could undo some of the damage he had caused. But old habits die hard. Brad's self-destructive tendencies always seemed to overpower his better judgment, and this latest string of bad decisions has once again cost him everything. So, the big question remains, can Brad ever truly straighten out his life? Final thoughts, is there hope for Brad, or is he just the dumbest person in Port Charles? At this point, Brad Cooper has burned more bridges than he can possibly rebuild. No matter how many second chances he gets, he always finds a way to sabotage himself. And now? He may have lost Lucas for good. But is there still hope for redemption? If Brad wants to truly change, he's going to have to start taking responsibility for his actions, not just after they blow up in his face, but before he makes another terrible decision. Maybe, just maybe, if he finally learns his lesson, he can rebuild what's left of his life. But if history has taught us anything, it's that Brad never learns. And that's a wrap for today, guys. Do you think Brad will ever get his act together, or is he doomed to keep making the same mistakes forever? Next, we're diving deep into one of the most jaw-dropping and controversial storylines unfolding in General Hospital, Jocelyn Jacks stepping into the world of espionage. That's right, folks, Joss is trading in college life for covert operations, and whether you love it or hate it, there's no denying that this twist has completely changed her character's trajectory. But what's really going on here? Is Joss being manipulated, or does she actually have what it takes to become a full-fledged spy? And what does this mean for her future, her family, and the people who care about her the most? Let's break it all down. Jocelyn Jacks, a pawn or a rising star in the world of espionage? At the heart of this shocking twist is Jack Brennan, a man with questionable motives and an unsettling amount of influence over Joss. On the surface, it seems like he's simply grooming her to become a spy, pushing her into situations that test both her courage and her ability to think on her feet. But why? Some fans believe Brennan's ultimate goal isn't Jocelyn at all, it's Jason Morgan. Jason refused Brennan's offer to join the WSB, and now, it seems like Brennan might be playing a long game of manipulation, using Joss as a way to pressure Jason into compliance. Others suspect that Brennan might be preying on Jocelyn's grief and anger. Ever since Dex Heller's death, she's been consumed by a need for revenge, and what better way to control someone than to exploit their pain? Brennan may have carefully crafted this entire situation to ensure that Joss sees no way out but through him. Regardless of his exact motives, one thing is clear: Joss is in deeper than she realizes, and with each move she makes, she's slipping further and further away from the life she once knew. Jocelyn's unlikely journey, from college student to spy in training. Let's take a step back and really think about how wild this transformation is. Jocelyn wasn't supposed to be a cold-blooded, calculated operative. She had a completely different path ahead of her, one that didn't involve secret missions, manipulation, or the looming threat of being used as a pawn in a dangerous game. Sure, she was never going to follow in her grandmother Bobby Spencer's footsteps as a doctor, but she still had goals. She was studying environmental science, a perfectly respectable career choice that also, coincidentally, makes for a fantastic cover story for someone traveling the world under false pretenses. But now? Now she's being shaped into something entirely different. What started as a simple act of vengeance for Dex has evolved into something darker and far more complicated. Jocelyn has always been a fighter, but is she prepared for what it really means to operate in the world of espionage? The more she embraces this new life, the easier it will become to justify the things she does in the name of justice. And the scariest part? She might actually be good at it. Brennan and Carly, a relationship we don't want to think about. If the idea of Brennan pulling Joss into the world of espionage wasn't unsettling enough, let's not forget the absolute disaster happening on another front: his relationship with Carly Spencer. That's right. The same man who is recruiting Joss into a life of secrets and deception is also romancing her mother. The more you think about it, the more disturbing it gets. Carly, for all her flaws, would never willingly put Joss in danger. But what happens when she finally realizes the full extent of Brennan's influence over her daughter? You can bet that when Carly finds out just how deep Joss is in, she will rain down hellfire on Brennan. But by then, will it already be too late? Does Jocelyn have what it takes to be a spy? Here's the million-dollar question: can Jocelyn actually succeed as a spy, or is she way in over her head? Let's break down her strengths and weaknesses. Pros: white heavy checkmark, she's fearless. Joss doesn't back down from a challenge, and she's proven she can handle herself in high-stakes situations. White heavy checkmark, she has life-saving skills. We can't forget how she saved Christina Corinthos from drowning while heavily pregnant. In a crisis, she keeps her cool long enough to act. White heavy checkmark, she's determined. When Joss sets her mind to something, she doesn't give up. That kind of tenacity could make her an asset in the world of espionage. Cons: crossmark, her emotions control her. Unlike seasoned spies like Anna Devane and Robert Scorpio, Joss wears her heart on her sleeve. In espionage, that's a weakness that could get her killed. Crossmark: she talks too much. Let's be real, Joss does not know when to shut up. In a world where discretion is everything, her tendency to speak before thinking could be her downfall. Crossmark: she's not as ruthless as she thinks she is. Right now, Joss believes she's making calculated choices, but what happens when she's faced with a real kill or be killed situation? So while she might have raw potential, she has a long way to go before she can even be mentioned in the same breath as true professionals like Anna or Robert. Is Joss becoming the very thing she hates? Perhaps the most ironic part of this entire situation is that Joss has spent her whole life condemning Sonny Corinthos' world. She despised the violence, the corruption, the moral compromises, and yet, here she is, walking the exact same path. The only difference? She's convinced herself that she's doing it for the right reasons. But at what point does that line become meaningless? Because if she keeps making excuses for the choices she's making now, it won't be long before she fully embraces the very thing she once swore she'd never become. And that's the real tragedy of Jocelyn Jack's story. What happens next? At this point, Joss has two possible futures: Keycap 1. She realizes the truth before it's too late. If Joss wakes up and sees that Brennan is using her, she could still find a way out. But that won't be easy, and it may require burning bridges she isn't ready to burn. Keycap 2. She goes too far, and there's no turning back. If Joss keeps diving deeper into this world, she may reach a point where she can't undo what she's done. Once she crosses a certain line, she may never be able to go back to who she was before. Either way, her future is no longer her own, and that's the scariest part of all. And that's a wrap for today, guys. Do you think Jocelyn will ever wake up and realize how much trouble she's in? Or is she already too far gone? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more General Hospital discussions.
Thanks for watching, guys. See you soon. Bye.